Yeah, get him. Go get him. Yeah, get him. He's been talking badly about Arsenal. Get him. Things are really fun until they're turned on you. This is today's Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is indeed our Arsenal News Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you for joining me, and I'm glad to be back here in the UK. It's been a long week. It's been a lot. It's been hotel rooms, it's been trains, it's been planes, automobiles. What's that song? Trains and planes and Ferris wheels, I think. Just going back to my childhood now, remembering songs. But good morning to you all. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. Appreciate your time. Frankly, good morning to you, to Glenn, to Martin, to Barry, to Arasilki, to Mohammed, to Canoe, Jeffrey Maabi. We've got Diavaguru in the chat as well. We've got Daniel. We've got Amber Lee, Chima, Shay, Carrie-Ann, Gary, Kirill, P. Good morning to you all, and thank you for listening, and thank you for tuning in. And let's just take a breath, shall we? Because Arsenal sit top of each table that they are in, joint top of the Champions League, which means joint first. The maths people can't be getting annoyed about that. That is the reality. And Ellie says, thoughts on the new NYC mayor? Yeah, congratulations to Zoran for the win. Arsenal in power in New York. I did see the Sky News question to him, and he had to take a second before responding, because he said, I used to watch many a transfer window on Sky Sports News, and he needed the question to be repeated because he kind of just got a bit starstruck by the idea of being asked by Sky. So, yes, congratulations to him. Apparently, like the biggest turnout of voters in New York for like 50 plus years or something, and loads of people that have never voted before voting. So, yeah, congratulations. But yeah, let's bring it back more specifically to kind of the primary Arsenal rather than secondary Arsenal, shall we? And make sure you do drop a like, of course, on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. But let's jump into today's stories. There's not many. It's one of those quiet Thursdays between a Champions League game and the weekend's action. Tomorrow, of course, there is a press conference, and I look forward, of course, as well to hopefully bringing you a pre-recorded episode with a guest. I'm going to do my best to kind of bring you a pre-recorded show. I know that there's been a lot of them. I can only apologize for the fact that there has been a lot of pre-recorded shows lately, and I haven't always been around to do the usual live shows like we're doing today. Please accept my apologies. It's nothing I can do. I can't do anything about it. But there will be tomorrow a pre-recorded episode, and then Saturday live show, Sunday live show, Monday live, and then all the way through until maybe the next press conference, depending on when that might be. But I would expect it will probably be a later one on that Friday before the North London derby, and then of course we might have some open training sessions and things like that for the game against Bayern. But for a while there shouldn't be any interruptions beyond tomorrow to the pre-recorded programming. But I hope you appreciate all the effort that goes into putting those shows on anyway, and that there is and tends to be always a show available for you to listen to. But yeah, let's talk about this player of the month, because your selection Arsenal have given you is from Jurriën Timber, Gabriel Magalhaes, Declan Rice, and Bukayo Saka. Good luck choosing. Good luck choosing between them four, because I can't. I wouldn't want to be the person who has to choose between those four. I think it's done on a vote, is it not? I don't think I'd need like multiple votes. I would need multiple votes. Jurriën Timber has been probably this season our best player, and he's been brilliant in October. He's been fantastic in October. He's been utterly brilliant. I've got a stupid fly on my face. I'll tell you what happened, right? So Halloween, I'm going off on a really weird tangent now. Halloween comes, go out and buy the pumpkin. It's a lovely day out with my niece and the family. Buy the pumpkin, get out front, because, we do indulge in the Halloween. We don't mind it. It's a kind of our area. There's a There's only a school around the corner, so there's a lot of kids that like to, go around the area and do the trick-or-treating. And so me and the missus did, the right thing, bought a lot of sweets and stuff. But the pumpkin, I don't know what happened, but we managed to pick a pumpkin that had it just attracted so many flies. And so we're now in this process of trying to detox the house. And now and again, you just see one tiny little fly and it's like, it's not over yet. It's like a plague of locusts. We're trying to solve it. But yes, back to the matter at hand. Jurrien Timber's probably been the best player this season and had a brilliant October. Gabriel, I mean, what a player. He's been absolutely excellent for Arsenal all season. And again, in October, was also absolutely brilliant. I don't think there really can be too much debate about his contributions to goal against Atletico Madrid. Of course, his performances and clean sheets that he's been keeping so far during this campaign as well. I mean, he's had a brilliant month of football and deserves to be involved. Declan Rice has basically been involved in every single situation that we've had to score goals in. And Bukayo Saka's come back to form and has been brilliant. Claire says, haven't you had problems with flies? Yeah. So the old problem with flies was we brought a house plant and then I filled it like an idiot with soil from outside rather than indoor soil. So yeah, I apparently I just shouldn't own a house. I don't know what the right things are to do, but yeah, it's again that plant, by the way, for those that wanted a plant update, is going from strength to strength. It's not dead, it's alive. There's no fly problems with that plant particularly, but there was with the pumpkin. And yeah, this one's going very well. So happy days in that regard. Happy days. Maybe ask Arteta. Yeah, I might ask Arteta for some tips on how to have a house plant and have a pumpkin over Halloween and not attract flies into your own house. Moving forwards, though, of course, there was more Champions League action last night. In fact, what I might do is just put a quick poll of our own into the chat box as well of who is your player of the month for October. Is it Timber? Is it Gabriel? Is it Saka? Or is it Rice? There you go. You can vote and we can maybe get an idea of who might win in that one as well. But yes, moving into European action and all of the Champions League action from the past couple of days. Of course, I was just back from Prague. Brilliant city, by the way. Wonderful city. Had a great time there. Would recommend it highly, not just for football, not just for stag do's. It's an amazing city. It really, really is an amazing city. And it was a privilege to be there and a privilege to enjoy it. One of the things that I wanted to do before I left was have some goulash, and you get kind of the goulash in like the baked bread. And I had it, and it was gorgeous. So yes, managed to enjoy the fruits of the city, or well, the meat of the city, I guess. And it was a very enjoyable trip indeed. So let's run through the results from the last couple of days. Of course, Arsenal winning 3-0 over Slavia Prague, and Napoli drawing 0-0 with Eintracht Frankfurt. Atletico Madrid beating Union Saint-Gilloise 3-1. Liverpool getting an important win over Real Madrid. And I have to just pause here because, and I tweeted about this, I'm a little concerned. It's all fun and games laughing at Liverpool, and we've enjoyed their bad form. This is a big win. Real Madrid aren't the side that they used to be, yes. But Liverpool looked a lot better. And I tell you what, they looked a lot better with Wirtz on the left, probably their best showing from him this season, playing in another role. Szoboszlai, as you know, big fan of his, very annoying that he's at Liverpool. Moved back into the number 10 role, and that looks like something that could be a real maybe penny drop moment for Arne Slot. I hope it's not, but it could be. Spurs went down to 10 men and still beat Copenhagen. Jamie O'Hara got rather upset that apparently he wasn't allowed to talk about them being effectively Champions League winners after beating a side that have lost all 4 of their games so far in the competition. Olympiacos drawing 1-1 with PSV. Juventus 1-1 with Sporting. PSG were beaten by 10-man Bayern Munich. Luis Diaz being sent off will be unavailable for the game against Arsenal at the end of this month. Monaco winning 1-0 at Buda Glimt, and Paphos starting off yesterday's games. Massive victory for them. 1-0 winners over Villarreal, the Cypriot side pushing forwards. Karabag led twice over Chelsea and managed to secure a 2-2 draw against the World Club Cup champions. Manchester City beating Borussia Dortmund 4-1. Newcastle beating Athletic Club 2-0. Ajax losing 3-0 at home to Galatasaray. Club Brugge, Arsenal's next away opponents in the Champions League, scored 3 against Barcelona in a 3-3 draw. Benfica losing 1-0 at home to Leverkusen. That's their 4th loss in a row. Jose Mourinho not doing the best job in the world there. Inter Milan 2-1 winners over Kairat, and Marseille losing at home to Atalanta. What that does to the table is, of course, means that Arsenal sit top with Bayern and Inter. They're currently second on goal difference only. Actually, they're kind of goal different. They're kind of second on. Is it just goals scored? I think because Arsenal and Bayern have both got an 11 goal difference. I imagine it might be goals scored. That the reason why Bayern are just pipping Arsenal to that top spot at the moment. Manchester City are 4th, having won 3, drawn 1 of their games. PSG now dropping to 5th, having lost their first game of the competition as well. Newcastle sitting 6th, Real Madrid 7th, Liverpool 8th. And that is, of course, the top 8 as it stands right now. The 9th to 24th, which would be the teams that would go into that playoff round at the moment, as it stands in order: Galatasaray, Spurs, Barcelona, Chelsea, Sporting, Dortmund, Karabakh, Atalanta, Atletico Madrid, PSV, AS Monaco, Paphos, Bayer Leverkusen, Club Brugge, Eintracht Frankfurt, and Napoli. And then the bottom 8 sides who would currently be going out of the competition is Marseille, Juventus, Athletic Club, Union Saint-Gilloise, Bodo Glimt, Slavia Prague, Olympiacos, Villarreal, FC Copenhagen. Sorry, hadn't lost all their games. Had drawn 1 and lost 3. Kairat, Benfica, and Ajax. Right now, that is the reality of the situation. Now, last 2 things I want to discuss with you. The second one I might move more into part 2 of today's show. It's no preview, so it's just part 2. But Oliver Glasner has confirmed that Palace are seeking to change their match against Leeds to the Saturday after Arsenal and Palace were told that their game in the League Cup quarterfinal would take place on the 23rd of December. At the moment, Arsenal are due to travel to Everton on the 21st. Palace are due to travel to Leeds on the 21st as well. Palace do play a game on the Thursday, and so would, of course, have something of an issue in terms of still, they could move this game to the Saturday. They would still have to play a game within 2 days of it at Leeds, so they're in a bit of a pickle, of course. It will allow more time for them to prepare, but of course, Arsenal would, in some ways, be a little bit frustrated by the 2-day return. Arsenal, of course, are therefore, we assume with Arteta saying he's going to lead that to the club, and I think we can already assume in pretty good faith that Arsenal are making requests to see that game against Everton moved. Of course, it would mean any fans that have, like myself, made plans, of course, and paid their tickets to get the trains up to Everton on the 21st would then need to rearrange those plans and would need to rearrange those organised trains or however they're travelling up for the game in what will be obviously a frustrating scenario, but more so for Arsenal, they do need to have a great level of rest, and it just seems bonkers that they would then play Sunday, Tuesday. Arsenal don't have any midweek games at the moment and won't do. So they'll have a full week's rest before the game against Everton and then another 2 days rest if that game gets moved before they play Palace. So hopefully, of course, Arsenal can get the extra day's rest, but Palace, whatever happens to them, will have a game on Thursday and maybe a game. I don't know why that UEFA game can't be played on Wednesday. There's no Champions League games going on. Frankly, it should be played on Wednesday, but it'd be difficult. I can't see UEFA, bending to the wheels of Palace because of their domestic action. It just seems nuts that this happens. It seems crazy that the authorities at B can't work this stuff out early on in the season and can't potentially foresee these scenarios opening up. I don't know why the Conference League has to be played on Thursday when there's no Champions League games that week. It just doesn't seem to make any sense whatsoever. Right, we're going to go to part 2, where I'm going to talk to you about something slightly different, actually, to what I usually do. We usually kind of go into part 2 and just do the Q&A, but there is something that I want to talk about. And I'm going to get a lot of your thoughts and feelings on, which I'm looking forward to doing as well. But I tell you what the feeling that I had during that trip to Prague was, I wish there was a way of somehow watching the highlights from the game on TNT Sports YouTube, but I couldn't because I was obviously geo-locked by the fact I was in Prague. I wish there was a way. If only there was a way. Well, my goodness me, there is a way. Because that way, and there is only one way, is to use NordVPN because it gives you that superpower of changing your geodigital location on your laptop, on your mobile, on your tablet, anything that you willingly would like to change your geodigital location on to be able to watch things like game highlights in another country that are locked, of course, by something like being abroad. Well, if you use NordVPN, you can change that for the better. And that's exactly what I did. A little quick jump onto NordVPN, click on the UK, boom. My phone thinks it's in the UK. I can watch the highlights. It's just a lovely, lovely thing. And you can go to nordvpn.com/Gooner and get yourself a significant discount off a 1 or indeed a 2-year deal. And I highly recommend that you go and do that. The link to do so is in the description, nordvpn.com/Gooner. Get yourself that protection online. I was using many a public Wi-Fi service while I was away as well, many cafes, many hotels, trying, of course, to do some work, and having that extra layer of protection while on a public Wi-Fi service without the typical protection that your Wi-Fi service at home has was an absolute must. nordvpn.com/Gooner. Go and check it out. Link in the description, as always. Right, let's go to part 2 of your questions and more on our little kind of interesting story right after this. So this is part 2 of today's show where we will be going to the chat box and tackling some of your questions. Whoa, I mean, Khan says, Tom, I have to say you're better than Elliot ad reads. No, I have to stop you there. Elliot is the king. Elliot is the inspiration. Elliot is the mentor when it comes to ad reads, when he remembers to do them early enough in podcasts. But thank you for the kind compliment, but no. Elliot is the one. There will never, ever, 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 ever be a better ad reader, in my opinion, than Elliot. And he's had a lot of experience. If you know, you know. When I say he's had a lot of experience when trying to sell products, you know. That's all I'll say. But yeah, let me bring your attention to this because I want to kind of get your thoughts. It's something we talked about on the show yesterday, and it actually inspired me to write a piece on it because I thought about it at the Full-Time Whistle. We talked about it in the show yesterday, and so I thought this is what I'm going to write my lunchtime piece about. And people weren't happy. People weren't happy about this. And it's brought up something in my mind that I hadn't thought until yesterday. And I want to kind of get your thoughts. So you might remember that we talked a lot about the record, the clean sheet record yesterday. And, of course, the penalty that was overturned at the end of the game. And, of course, I asked Mikel Arteta after the match about the fact that he was applauding the referee as he went over to the screen to have the penalty overturned. And therefore, Arsenal would likely not concede, and their clean sheet record would extend to 8 games and equal that record that stood now for 122 years. And it made me think. It made me think that we would, when that goal eventually comes, and it will, I hate to break it to you, listeners, but Arsenal will eventually concede a goal. It is going to happen. I hate to say it, but it will. I know there is a tiny, teeny, weeny percentage that it could never happen, but it won't. It won't happen. Eventually, Arsenal will concede. They will concede a goal. And so my thinking is, as we talked about yesterday, is what will the reaction be? And what does it tell us about Arsenal? And how will we see an Arsenal side respond? If it had have happened in the game on Tuesday night, at that point, at 3-1, you might have argued that it would have been a good time for the record to end because it didn't happen in a game that we would lose. It didn't happen in a game that had a really detrimental impact on our momentum or our morale or our form, and we would have just gone into the next game. Then if we were to say concede a goal in a game that then does have a negative impact on the result, so we lose 1-0 or draw 1-1 or lose 2-1 or whatever, say indeed that their record comes to an end in a scenario like that, could the impact on the team be significant enough that it could kind of destabilize the wagon, rock the boat? Any transport analogy you want to apply, feel free. And so I wrote this piece about the idea that the longer that Arsenal's clean sheet record extends, the bigger the question grows as to how the players are going to respond when it does end, because it will end. And I think that Mikel Arteta, how he applauded the referee and was so happy that the penalty was overturned, spoke volumes at the end of that game. And I think it will show, and in my opinion, as I wrote in the article, I think that Arsenal have got the maturity, the mental stability, and the solidity to go on and respond to it in the right way. But my word, people thought I was putting a negative spin on this. People thought I was being negative about Arsenal. People thought that, I think some people were like, I expect this from others, but not from you type of thing. And it got me thinking a little bit about, we've talked about siege mentality on the channel before. We've talked about this idea that I think there is elements of the media out there that talk about Arsenal differently to how they talk about other teams. We've spoken about that. We've spoken about the idea of posting tables that have the points of teams that have, when they take away set piece goals, or this idea that Arsenal's defensive record can't go on forever. And, they are going to crumble eventually and they're going to negatively react to that, to which nothing like that was said, of course, in the piece. And we've talked about this idea of kind of like, not social justice warriors in the sense of Arsenal, but kind of Arsenal justice warriors in a way, highlighting contradictions, highlighting hypocrisies, calling out people being negative for the sake of being negative about Arsenal. And yesterday was the first time that I thought, I liked it, but is this a good example of where maybe there is a level of paranoia about kind of Arsenal at the moment, the track we're on, the trophy that we see in our sights at the end of the season, the light at the end of a very long 22-year-old tunnel, and the suggestion that of anyone that could even be perceptively conceived to be slightly maybe asking a question at a certain point is a little bit like, I don't like that. That's negative. Why are you being negative? Don't be negative about Arsenal when it's not negative. And so my question is to you is, where's the balance? And do you think that in itself is a problem? This is what I want to discuss. Is that in itself a problem? Because, there are friends of mine who are more critical about Arsenal, let's say, and have shown me examples of how, I've got a lot of abuse over the years from the critics of Arsenal, critics of Arteta, and some horrible things have been said about me, to me, behind my back, whatever you like. And, that's part and parcel of the territory. You deal with it. I've not had the experience too often of the other side of that spectrum, the very pro Arteta, the pro Arsenal side of things coming for me, as they have come for other friends of mine who are more critical than me, that are more scathing than me, that are, they would argue, more grounded than me in some departments. And I feel like maybe that this kind of spectrum that we have of the Arsenal fan base, from one side being, I hate Arteta, this side being, Arteta can do no wrong, kind of that's the spectrum, if you like. That this idea of the siege mentality, calling out what should be called out, and there are things I think should be called out, but also maybe it has created a higher level of sensitivity amongst the fan base, so that any inkling that there might be Arsenal being questioned about something, when even though they're not, sparks this response. So this is what I'm curious to get your thoughts about, and what your thinking is, and whether you would agree with them that this was not the right time to ask the question. Now, just one fun, and I will shut up in a second and answer and read some of your comments, I promise. But the reason why I wrote this piece yesterday was because of the penalty situation at the end of the game. Because obviously it wasn't like Arsenal, it wasn't like it was a game where Arsenal were never going to concede. They'll never look like they were going to concede. At the start of the game, they did. And obviously when the penalty situation happened, my sinking feeling was, oh my goodness me, we're going to concede. The record's going to end. What's going to happen? How are they going to respond? That's how I felt. And so that's what I wrote, because that's how I felt. And so I'm kind of curious as to what you think about this. Shari's just woken up. He's going to go back to the beginning. Enjoy and don't listen. Claire says, don't shut up. We kind of rely on you to be talking. Yeah, it's very true. I'm not going to go silent. I meant more so I'm going to start engaging with you and stop this monologue. Mikey says, Tom fell on the wrong side of the fence, it seems. Yeah, it seems I fell on the wrong side of the fence for some people yesterday. So let's get some of your thoughts. And he says, it's because so many Arsenal stories and narratives are constantly spun bad without any other intention than to cause disharmony or just to have a go at Arsenal fans. So it's the zeitgeist. And I think that's a really good. So, I mean, I hope you haven't killed the conversation dead in the first comment, but it is an interesting point. And I think it's a very good point. And it is this idea that because there is so much spin, there is so much bad intention about so much that is said about Arsenal at the moment, that there is, and this is what I feel, that there has been an increased level of sensitivity to the things that aren't that and that are nowhere near that. I mean, if you put this tweet alongside that of the table of goals scored without set pieces and what the table would look like, it's night and day. You know, there's barely even a strand of semblance between the two of them. But that, I think, that level of increased sensitivity blurs the line between those two things instead, and they look to be a lot closer to each other than what they actually are in reality. Soup says, I get it from both sides. So does that mean I'm balanced? I guess that's a good thing. I guess, yeah. If you're getting it from the uber critical Arsenal fans and the uber positive Arsenal fans, then maybe you're in a good balanced state. Maybe. I think on that spectrum, it's kind of like, I think it's good to be kind of like skewed towards the positivity side of the spectrum, because I think, and it depends upon the situation of Arsenal. If Arsenal being as competitive as they are right now, I think obviously it means it's better to be skewed towards that way. However, during like the Arsene Wenger period or the end of the Arsene Wenger tenure, it made more sense to be skewing slightly towards kind of the more critical side, because I think we've got to agree that was a period of time where a change in manager was definitely needed. The Unai Emery period, again, at the end of his tenure, very much more skewed towards that side. So I think your position can change along that spectrum, and there are times where it looks more appropriate to be skewed more towards one than the other. But right now, it does seem to be more appropriate to skew towards kind of the positive or rather the praising than the critical. Let's call it that, rather than positive and negative. Curtis says 10 in a row and we're still not 100%. Speaks volumes. Trophies incoming. Yes, plural people, says Curtis. I love that. Wilson says Tom can say what he wants. Give the guy a damn break. Bloody hell. Oh, we love Wilson in the chat. And he also continues by saying it constantly sells, gets attention, so it will never stop unless we win and be so incredibly unbearable. And that is true. Like, Arsenal do need to win. Arsenal need to shut people up, shut sites up, shut media up, shut just some journos up. It needs to happen. Arsenal need to win to be able to stop that level of conversation. You know, I'm good friends with people who are very critical of Arsenal. And I want nothing more than good friends of mine to be shut up by Arsenal. And I cannot wait for that to happen. And I think that it will happen this season. Kay says, hi, Tom. Watch every episode on Catch Up. First time live. Trivia question for you. Can you name the last 5 players to wear the number 9 for Arsenal? Oh, my goodness me. The last 5 players to wear the number 9 for Arsenal. Gabriel Jesus, obviously. Such an interesting question. Podolski. Oh, who was the number 9 before? Don't tell me, chat box. I'm not looking at the chat. I'm looking into space. Why can't I remember who it was? Lacazette, right? Lacazette was 9. Pretty sure Lacazette was 9. Not looking at the chat. Podolski, Lacazette, and currently Jesus. There's 3. Did Eduardo wear 9? Why do I feel like Eduardo didn't? Eduardo. That's 4, unless I'm forgetting someone big. And I might be forgetting someone big in between. Giroud wore 12. Did Lucas Perez wear 9? Why am I feeling all of a sudden like Lucas? I feel like it was 17, not 9. But I want to say, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say Lucas Perez. So Lucas Perez, Eduardo, Podolski, Jesus, and who's the other one I said? Lacazette. Now I'm going to check. Arsenal number history. Squad number history. Let's scroll down if the page wants to load. Transfermarkt's so slow sometimes. Takes an absolute age. Here we go. Number 9. Lacazette. Jesus, Lacazette. Perez. Lucas Podolski. 1, 2, 3. Park Chu-young was before Eduardo. Oh, I mean, come on. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. To forget Park Chu-young. I mean, I think I can be forgiven that. I've got 5 of the last 6. I forgot Park Chu-young. So, crazy. Someone remembered Park. Did anyone actually remember Park Chu-young? Yes, Jack. Jack got Park Chu-young. Wow, that is incredible. That is very, very good. So did Phil. Also got Park Chu-young. Let's see, anyone else? Anyone else? I think that's probably it, right? Yeah. Fair play to you two. Fantastic. D says Park who? Young? Yeah, indeed. It's easily forgotten who Park was. But played 1 game, I think, in the League Cup. I feel like he played like 1 game. So yeah, it's mad that he got the number 9 shirt, wasn't it? But yeah, I mean, 5 out of 6, not bad. And I don't think that's too bad to forget who the guy after Eduardo. But Lucas Perez, I'm quite happy that I remembered. But certainly the other one. I don't think I was ever going to get that. You could have given me a long time. Let's scroll up to where we were, shall we, and take on some more of these comments about this. And Micah says, neurosis is a result of the neurosis. Wow. I mean, we're really using some strange words this morning. Neurosis is excessive and irrational anxiety and obsession, a mental health condition of which anxiety is the primary characteristic without major disorganization or thinking behavior. So is it neurosis within Arsenal fan base caused by kind of this paranoia that everyone's talking bad about Arsenal all the time? Nigel says, I think when it does happen, we'll be driven to score more goals as we are so much stronger than we have been in the past. And I think this is my opinion as well. I think we will respond to it well. But it was just the idea of even asking the question of what will happen that seemed to get under a few people's skins. D says, it does make games more interesting as we keep this going, but it's football and goals get scored for and against. Speculation will grow the longer it lasts, but to question the mentality is crazy. Yeah, and I don't think it's about questioning the mentality. I think it's about questioning about how will they respond? What will the level of the response be when it does happen? How strong it will be. Not how bad it will be, but how strong it will be. And the longer that goes on, it does kind of build up a greater level of weight attached to that moment when it does happen. Steve says, the problem with some of our fan base is they live in a binary world. One of our favorite words, Steve. I prefer to live in a trinary, new TGT word, trinary world. Is that the right? What's the opposite of binary? What is the opposite of, it's not going to be quaternary. What is the opposite of binary? What's the opposite of binary? Opposite of consisting of 2 parts, opposite of relating to a number of, I want to know the opposite. Oh, I guess, yeah, it's not going to be an opposite, is it? Because binary bi is 2, so trinary, quaternary, tertiary, no? Is there an opposite to binary? Non-binary, but that's something else, I guess. Is non-binary also the terminology of it? Is that the correct terminology? I guess it might be. A lot of you are saying non-binary, so I guess that is the opposite to binary, is it not? So yeah, I'd rather we lived. Strange way of putting it, but I'd rather we lived in a non-binary place than a binary place when it comes to kind of talking about football. RGB says, I hate the media bias against Arsenal and how we are portrayed in the media. However, there was instances last year when Arteta, who I love, made a rod for his own back, particularly post PSG. And it's not to say that, and I think this is a really good point, because I think it's important that we can be critical. I think you have a right to be critical. I think you have a right to ask questions. And I don't think that we should live in this world that is, for some, a binary way of thinking where it has to be one or the other. It has to be, Arsenal should be held accountable for everything they do. And Arsenal should never be criticised while they're doing well. These are not healthy positions to hold. In my opinion, they are not healthy positions to hold. Arsenal should be questioned. Arsenal should be critiqued. There are better times than others to do that. But I think at this point, this is a good question to ask with the clean sheet record going on. What happens when it ends? How will Arsenal respond to that? So, yeah, I think that's important. Uncreative handle name says, I think it's a fair question, Tom. For me, it's another test of how far this team can go and how they react to conceding a goal. Going 1-0 down against Bayern would be interesting. Lee Bucks, thank you for the kind donation. So I love what Arsenal are doing. I'm also cautious about it as well. Aren't we all, my friends? Aren't we all? Let's go to, let's scroll down a bit more. Chris says, conceding a goal won't make a difference to the team. We conceded goals against Liverpool and City, and we bounced back. We also lost those games. Sorry, we also didn't win those games. It's worth pointing out as well. So the games in which we have conceded other than Newcastle, we didn't win. So you could argue that those examples maybe count against the idea, but they're very good teams. So I'm not personally going to do that. Perry says, of course, teams will try and break us and score eventually. That's the game. And to not even think of that scenario is just dumb. I would kind of agree to an extent. Claire says, when we do win the league, and I love the word when with that, I plan to be the unbearable Arsenal fan that people speak of. People emigrate because of me. Paul says, some of our fans refuse to enjoy the moment and accept that there will be days when things don't work out for us. Wilson says, I do feel the media are so bitter to us. Can we start saying the word some? Because we're the media here. I'm in the media, and I feel like I don't do it. So it's not everyone in the media, is worth pointing out. It's not all of the media. It's just some of the media. I think it's important to kind of distinguish between the two. AFC to Ladai says, Tom, I think it's a good question, and I have the same thoughts, but I do believe that we're going to respond with the outlook that we just simply go again. Nathan says, this is a very interesting point. I think it's subjective on how you take it, but how you do take it will show whether you see life half full or half empty. Talking about it won't breed negativity. Thank you, Nathan. I think it's a very good summary, I think, of the discussion. Tizer says, did you see the Saka has the second best XG of any English player in the Champions League history? Can you name the person in first and 3 people behind him that make the top 5? Wow, you're really testing my knowledge now. Who has the best XG of any English player in the Champions League? When you say best XG, do you mean like the highest XG? Or do you mean how he's performed against his XG? I would assume from your question you mean the highest XG of any English player in the Champions League. Or is it how they are responding? Because my immediate would be like Kane would be number 1. Surely Kane would be number 1. Would Rooney be on that list of 5 as well? Potentially would Sterling maybe be on that list? You know, I know that he didn't have a great time with Arsenal, but when he was with City, he was very good. Yes, higher. So Kane, I think, would be number 1. Rooney, Sterling. And is there like an over certain number of games played? Because I imagine there was maybe an English player that played like 1 game and get 100 whatever, the best XG ever. But I guess maybe the highest, it wouldn't worry about that because it'd be the money played. So you have to kind of think about the ones that played the most games. Frank Lampard, one of the highest scoring midfielders of all time. So Frank Lampard, I guess, maybe, potentially on that list. My guesses would be Kane. I don't think Bellingham's been around long enough. So Kane, Saka, Rooney, Lampard. A lot of you are saying Mike. I am looking in the chat now. A lot of you are saying Michael Owen. Rashford, a lot of you are saying as well. A lot of you are saying Bellingham, but I just don't think he's been around long enough. Is there someone really obvious I'm forgetting? I think Steven Gerrard would be on there. Other English strikers. Alan Shearer, I don't think played enough in the Champions League, if at all. He probably did. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I don't think... yes, because Giggs is English. Goodness gracious me. And Sterling. I did say Sterling, though, so I'm going to go Sterling. Andy Cole says, Rich, not a bad shout. Let us know the answer. Some of you are saying that Terry did this on his show. So let me know the answer, Tizer. Who are the 5? I'd love to know who the 5 were. It might be Rashford. Perry says, better question would be, how will we react when opponents score 1 or 2 and go into a low block and park the bus? A little bit like Newcastle. We broke that team down, and it required a couple of set pieces to do it, but we did it. Adi says, our response will be heavily scrutinised just as much as our clean sheet streak is. We are the most talked about team because rivals fear us, and this is why they plot our downfall. We will rise. Eddie says, isn't this the same when dropping points too? Do we need to make a big deal of it if we concede or drop points? Do we need to make a big deal of it? No. Do we need to ask the question? Absolutely. Jordan says, Walcott's not a bad shout. Maybe Walcott was involved. Arsenal in the Champions League a hell of a lot. Tyler says, to be fair, I don't know. I saw it on Terry's show and thought you might know. Well, why ask the question? That's awful. How dare you ask a question without knowing the answer? That's horrendous. Highest English Champions League XG players. English players with the most XG? No. I just want to know the answer. I'm going to text Terry because I need to know the answer. Who are the highest highest 5 English XG acquirers? Is that the right word? In the UCL. My chat said you discussed it. Hopefully, I don't know if he'll get back to me in the show, but I need to know. So let's see. Tyser, why would you do that? That's horrendous. That's I'll tell you what, that's nearly suspension worthy. That's nearly suspension worthy to put in a trivia question and not know the answer. Why are you testing my knowledge this morning? Everyone's asking me these weird questions. Can you name the song that was the speech that I have adapted? The Arsenal we will fight because it's necessary, and we know we will win because we are confident in victory of good over evil. I don't know, Mark. Winston Churchill? I have no idea. No idea. John says, last week with our surprise guest, you had asked for guesses. Someone suggested, was it Walks Football? But you didn't know him. Did you check him out? He does good analysis. No, I didn't. So I don't. Let me just quickly Google who they are. But I don't know them. So again, that's not an insult. Some people take it really harshly when I say I don't know. I'm sorry. I mean, you've got more subscribers than me. So I'm sorry that I don't know who you are. But, I'm sure you do some great stuff. But no, I haven't yet looked into them, but I will. So I've added it to my list, John. I have searched it up. MG says 3 a.m. in the morning, making the live show. Tom, you have tourist fans too. Pick up the live chat from the Daily Play. I have to say, one of the greatest things, and really show kind of the global sense of the community. And if you're listening, please throw a question, because I'm so sorry, but I can't remember the guy's name. And I'm really sorry about that. And I should remember, but I was in press conference mode and immediately kind of got back to work. But I left my seat from the press box. I walked towards the press entrance to go into the press conference. And this guy comes over and says hello. He had a Slavia scarf on, I think, and said hello and said he watches the show and he's kind of here in a way, and like he's here in the Slavia section, but he's obviously supporting Arsenal because he's an Arsenal fan. And I was like, wow, that's kind of like crazy, really. So if it was you, please leave a comment. And I'm really sorry that I've forgotten your name because I shouldn't. But thank you for the kind words and yeah, for saying hello. It was quite cool. So Nicholas says, Tom, one of these days, I think it would be really funny if Arteta decided to troll everyone by playing boring football like they say we do and just sit up in a low block for an entire half. Well, maybe if we go 1-0 up in a Champions League final, he might do just that. So who knows? Abdul Hakim says, when did XG come into play? I think it's like a last decade type thing. Definitely like last decade. It's been more of a like, as algorithms and technologies improved, we've been able to get kind of these data numbers. So yeah, I guess that's it. So I'm curious about that one, but I don't know the exact date. Carl says, Tom, what great opponents of Cartesian dualism resist the reduction of psychological phenomena to physical states? Osmosis. Steve says, Tom, what are the winning numbers for the upcoming Euro lottery? I wish I knew. Hussein says, I can confirm it wasn't me, but I'd have had the same if I was in his place. That's very kind of you, Hussein. And he says, do we have an idea of who the likely and possible injury returns after the international break will be? I think impossible is probably Jesus immediately. I think that obviously Martinelli and Gyökeres will, but we don't know exactly when Havertz, Noni, and Ødegaard will be back. Hopefully, but we don't know for certain. And we will hear more from Arteta on Friday, but I imagine we'll get more information from him ahead of the North London derby after the break. That's what we will have. Amberly says, this is all getting a bit intellectual for me, and it's very early in the morning. Yeah, me too. And Dee says about the return schedules. Yes, kind of like we don't really know the exact details of the return schedules yet, but we know that Gyökeres and Martinelli should be after the international break. Havertz, Odegaard, Madueke close behind them, and then Jesus probably a little bit after them. Thomas says, Tom, if we will win all 4 cups this season, give us a percentage. 5%. That's quite high. Less than 5%, I will say. So yeah, that would be my answer for that one. Tyler says apparently it's Kane, Saka, Rooney, Gerrard, and Lampard. 4 out of 5 is not bad. And I did mention Gerrard, but I didn't think his longevity. That is the one. We were doing a game the other day, and I won't give you the answer. I'm tempted not to ask you the question because I don't remember the answers. But the question was, who are the top 10 FPL point scorers of all time? And the trick is you got to think longevity. But I can't remember all 10, so I'm not gonna say we do that because it'd be unfair. But you can probably Google it yourselves. There's definitely articles about it, but we were trying to work that out. Do enjoy the kind of the pre-match press room trivia questions at times. They are quite fun. Cap says, how come no media talk about Man City being a one-man team? Because there isn't enough kind of engagement around City in the same way that there is about Arsenal. If you think about the league and you think about who has the most locked-in fan bases that get the most reactions, that are going to get the most engagement, most views, most clicks, it's Arsenal, it's Man United, it's then Liverpool, it's then Chelsea. Who would be after those 4? Because there are other clubs that aren't in the big 6. I guess maybe Spurs, but I'm not sure about that. It's still not City. Spurs would have more engagement than City would. It could be Everton. Maybe not Everton. Newcastle have a big engaged fan base. They always draw in a lot of attention. So maybe Newcastle in the Premier League. Since West Ham do as well. West Ham have a big kind of engagement as well. So yeah, it's probably Newcastle after. It's probably Newcastle after Chelsea. I might even put Newcastle above Spurs. Maybe not. Maybe the global side of things it's bigger. So yeah, we'll go Spurs 5th, Newcastle 6th. I want to say West Ham 7th, and then City. I think West Ham have more engagement than City. I really do. I think there's more engagement around West Ham online than there is about Man City. I feel like I might be forgetting someone. I don't think there's enough of Crystal Palace to include them. I don't think so. Villa have quite a locked-in fan base. Yeah, maybe Villa in there as well. But yeah, a lot of you are saying Wrexham have got more of an engagement as well too. But that would be my assumption. So Arsenal certainly are the number one in terms of engagement and getting a response, a reaction. Then it's Man United. Then it's Liverpool. Then it's Chelsea. Then it's Newcastle. No, then it's Spurs. Then it's Newcastle. Then it's Villa. And then it's City. Yeah, I mean, Abley says I'd put Villa over City even. Yeah, and I'm not surprised because there's just not an engagement factor with City fans. There isn't a broad enough fan base that isn't locked in enough online. There are some, but it's just not really locked in the same way. And that's why Arsenal gets spoken about so much. That's why United gets spoken about. That's why Liverpool gets spoken about so much. So they're the main 3. Chelsea then slightly behind them. But Arsenal are absolutely the most talked about club in the world in terms of kind of online media engagement. I mean, obviously your Barca Real Madrid thing is also big, but it's I tell you what, I reckon it'd be close. I reckon it would be close. Maybe because I'm not as locked in on the Real Madrid and Barca kind of online debates and battles and your Ronaldo Messi thing. And I guess maybe maybe Latin America, there's a lot of engagement there as well with it. But I think it's not I don't think it's that much of a bridge to say that Arsenal are and have become the most talked about club in terms of engagement farming, content creation, maybe in the world. I think there is a good argument for it. I really do. Shay says, can you introduce trivia tests and prizes? If yes, remember I was the one who correctly guessed the Halo anniversary question. Halo remake question. But yes, no. It's the answer. I don't have time to do that. Nor am I sending out more packages to Ghana every week. I would be broke at that point if I'm sending out and let's be honest, I can't even give a prize away efficiently enough. So let alone, I mean, goodness, what on earth would I do trying to do a trivia test every week and then give a prize away and then somehow picking a winner if there was a draw? It's just never going to happen, is it? No way I'm going to successfully do that. Anyway, I think that rounds off today's show quite nicely. I'm surprised we got 50 minutes out of today. There wasn't much going on, but we did it. I'll be back with you on Saturday for the live show. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning with a pre-recorded episode because there is an early press conference, so I will be in attendance for that. So apologies for the lack of show in that regard. But yes, please do drop a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on catch-up on audio platforms, thank you to your listenership and support. And enjoy your Thursday. Got a day off. Absolutely buzzing. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.